Another duly noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. And hello again, everybody. Welcome to another duly noted podcast, as always presented by Titan MRI, the great folks over there, Joe Calorio. We love Joe. And, of course, brought to you from the Meldon Law Gator Studios here at Steve Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. And thanks to Jeffrey Meldon for being such a great sponsor as well. We do have one thing we're going to talk about in a minute, a change in our sponsorship. But we didn't lose anybody, but it's just a shift. And we'll get to that in a moment. You know, Coach Spurrier usually is on Mondays, and for some reason, Mondays appears to be his travel day. So, but he's not going to be here today. Ross Dellenger from Sports Illustrated will be here. And actually, I think that'll be a lot of fun because, first of all, he's one of the best in the business. And look forward to talking to him about, all the things that happened at SEC meetings last week. Again, I'm just observing from the corner over here because I wasn't there, but he knows a lot about it. And then Coach Spurrier will be here Friday. We were actually out here. It was an interesting week, a fun week, great week, because I spent the full week with my daughter here, my oldest daughter here, Jennifer, and we actually came out here Saturday because she just wanted to see it. And she's not she went to UF, she went to UF Law School. She was in the UF band, but she's not like a big sports fan. So she was into it a little bit. She was kind of into basketball, and she'd met Steve Spurrier a long time ago. But we came out here, and she could not get over this place, how great it is. She was raving on and on about it. And I think, between that and a couple other things we did, I think she really had a great time here, and I hope she did. She's actually down in Vero now with her mom, and they're getting ready to premiere. Did the lights just go off? They're getting ready to do premiere, not premiere, but because they've shown it at a couple of film festivals. This film that she worked on, also with my other daughter, Kelsey, and it's called On the Brink, and it is it sounds like it's great. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get down there Friday because we have a lot of stuff going on, including this podcast and radio and stuff like that. And but they're getting ready to show it down there, and it's really cool. Patrick is her husband, who is a director and writer of this movie and has done some amazing things. He's really good, really smart guy. All right. So we have Ross Dellenger today, and the lights are back on. That's good. I don't know why people turn them off in the middle of a podcast, but they do. All right, here's what we're doing that's a little bit different, and it's going to be different going forward because I had a great talk with Chris Hand. We texted back and forth for all weekend about this, what he wanted to do. He wanted to change up and do something a little bit different, and he really likes our opening segment. And he came up with a new name for it, and that's fine with me. So from now on, it will be called the Hand Law Starting Five. As you know, Hand Law has been the sponsor of Three Things for a long time. Three Things is now open. If anybody wants to get involved in that, be a sponsor for that, and we will be working on trying to sell that as well. But the Hand Law Starting Five has been that's going to be every day or every Monday and Friday now, and we're excited about it. We think it's going to be really good. And I was looking for a sponsor for it. We got one. He's moved over, and we're going to try to get Three Things. And again, the reason for, and I push this advertising thing all the time, guys. I just want to be able to do this comfortably, and my family. If we're going to do this show and make it successful, we need to sell it. So we'll keep trying to sell it. But people have made it great for me, especially all of our great sponsors that we'll get to. But the Hand Law Starting Five. Now, baseball is going on right now as we speak. I think the last time we had something like this happen, remember Florida was playing in the NCAA tournament when I think the first year I started this in March, during our show. So we couldn't even watch the game. We're trying to look down and go, and now Florida leads by 8, Right now, I know Florida was leading 1-0 after 3 innings. That's all I can tell you. I'll try to update you during breaks, but again, I know a lot of you are listening to the show on Tuesday or Wednesday, so you're already going to know what happens. I will say this though, and this is number one on our hand law starting five. What happened Saturday was Sunday was one of the most amazing days in the history of Florida baseball. Not just that they were able to squeak out that win. That about killed me. I mean, bases loaded, last guy coming up, and if all he's got to do is ground a single through the left side, and Central Michigan ends Florida's season, and instead they got him to pop up. But then after that, you're like, well, it's okay because we've seen what Oklahoma can do to mediocre pitching, and still might today, for all I know. But instead, Carson Finvold, I'm sure I'm not pronouncing it totally correct, does something I've never, like, I always say this, I've seen everything. I used to say that. I don't say it anymore because I have not seen everything, and I know that now. First of all, I'd never seen a pandemic. Now I've seen one, and one that's not gone yet. It's still affecting not only sports but all around the world. Both my son-in-law and my daughter's roommate tested positive last week. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. But I'd never seen a guy come into a game in the first inning with the bases loaded and no out and pitch a complete game the rest of the way. Never seen that. And again, this is a guy throwing 85. And this is a guy who couldn't pitch for Florida until last week. And they put him in the SEC tournament because they were out of pitching. And he did a tremendous – he wasn't even traveling with the team until the SEC tournament. And pitched pretty well in that game. Gave up a bunch of unearned runs, but he pitched pretty well. And so they knew that he would be a guy that they could go to, but they didn't expect anything like this, what he did Sunday night. And that place was rocking, and it was exciting and everything. But it certainly – I will say this. No matter what happens with the rest, what happens today, and if they do win, what happens at Virginia Tech, whatever happens, this has been an interesting, very difficult season. And I talked about this before, the exhaustion level of Gator fans being Gator fans this school year. I always look at things based on September really September to June. And then July and August are just for fun. That's when we start talking about football. But the year to me goes from September to June because that's when Florida is playing different sports. In fact, they have at least one left, and that is track, which starts Wednesday. But there are teams that you watch play and you go, man, I like a lot of the things they did. Some of the things frustrated the crap out of me. But I still look at this, and this was a team that was better than last year's team with a lot younger team. And that's a good sign. And speaking of that, let's go to number 2 on the hand law starting 5, which is softball and what happened there. Again, I've never seen a team in my life get run ruled twice in the postseason and consider it a great postseason. That's never happened, I don't think, in the history of college softball. But it was a great postseason. You got to the College World Series with a team that really didn't hit very well and didn't have an ace starting pitcher. And you never knew who was going to pitch. I mean, literally, I never knew who was going to pitch. To get all the way to the College World Series, went 1-2 there. I was just actually watching, and again, sometimes when we do the show live on Facebook, I was watching the Oklahoma game against UCLA just now, and UCLA was up 5-1 on Oklahoma, which they're unbeatable, and maybe they still are. We'll see what happens there. We'll try to update you on that too. But that softball team and the pure joy of Katie Kissler when she stole that homer. In the end, it didn't matter. They lost 8-0, got run ruled. But that made me the happiest I was all weekend, to be honest with you. Just watching that celebration, the hugs and everything, and at that point I go, hey, maybe they can sneak this one out. Obviously, this softball season did not end the way you want it to end, but it ended in the right place. There's a difference between ending it the way you don't want it to end, but ending it in the right place. I mean, a lot of seasons end in the at your home or on the road and at regionals. Super regionals, we thought for sure Virginia Tech was going to knock them off. No, run ruled them the first game. What happened after that? They run ruled them right back in the last one. So really impressive performance by softball and by Tim Walton. And again, this is what I'm talking about. Baseball and softball next year, I'm more excited about next year because of so many youngsters. I mean, you look at baseball, all the freshmen that they pitch this year, all the young players that they still have coming back. Now, I know they're going to lose some good players, but they're going to have a lot of them coming back. Same with softball. I think Tim Walton told me when they were going to Tallahassee, we were on the phone, and he said that he was starting 7 of his 9 players with either freshmen and sophomores. And again, this is a sport where you don't lose people to the draft. You don't have to worry about that. You coach them for 4 years, unless now the transfer portal could reshape things. You never know. That was number 2. Number 3 was Billy Horschel and what he did, and I got to admit there were some tears running down my eyes. I love Billy Horschel. He's been so good of a friend, so good to our golf tournament, so good just whenever I need to talk to him. He's been great. He's becoming too big of a star, I think, though, for me just to pick up the phone and call him anymore. I mean, 7 wins on the PGA Tour. Now, the record for a Florida player, former Florida player, I looked it up. I think this is right. I mean, this is what it said where I looked it up. And it was on the U.S. site. So, Doug Sanders won 20 tournaments during his career. Doug Sanders, I actually got to see him at Augusta one year. And I went up to him. I said, Doug, you don't know me. I'm Pat Dooley from the Gainesville Sun at the time. And I said, man, you're one of my heroes. I mean, really, I loved you. Everything you did, the way you dressed, the way you played. I remember when he lost the British Open, he missed a 2-foot putt and lost to Nicklaus in a playoff. That Nicklaus guy, you may have heard of him. But anyway, he won 20 tournaments. I think Calcavecchia won 13, maybe 14, because I don't think the British Open counted in that thing. Anyway, Billy's got 7, and to have his whole family there running out there, and they were like, "Did Daddy win?" It was one of the coolest things, and having him. I'm starting to well up now. What that family's been through. Don't forget what happened. Where his wife basically said, "Look, I've got to get sober," and she was very public about it. I can't continue to drink a glass of wine in the middle of it. And that family went through a lot there and did it publicly. And I tell you what, Billy's one of my favorite Gator athletes of all time, to be honest with you. I mean, he's there in the pantheon. I don't know if I maybe that'll be a summer thing where I do my favorite athletes of all time. I can give you like 10 or 12 of them. All right, number 4 on hand loss starting 5. The Warriors last night. I had it on the second TV. I was kind of watching it, but and I'll get to the TV part of it. I couldn't watch the Florida game last night, so I had to kind of keep track of it, listening to it, and flipping on some other things. I ended up having The Martian on. I could watch that movie 100 times. I don't know why that movie appeals to me so much. Is it a great movie or a bad movie or mediocre? It's okay. I love it for some reason. I love outer space movies, I think. One of my favorites is Apollo 13. Always. So I watched the Warriors game, and at halftime, I'm like, man, they're going to be in trouble again. And then they just blew them out in the third quarter. So we needed that. Again, I don't know what the deal was with Al Horford. Now, Al Horford got covered by Klay Thompson instead of the usual, where they had Draymond Green on him. And apparently it affected him. I don't know why it would, but he hardly took any shots and ended up, I think he scored 2 points in the game. Evan, you're a genius. You got the game on for me. Is it still 1-0? I can't. Yep. Okay. 1-0 Florida right now in the 4th. So I'll keep you updated on that. So I wanted the Warriors to win, even though I like the Warriors more than I like the Celtics, but I like Horford more than I like anybody. But I like Steph Curry second most. It's kind of one of those things where I don't really care who wins, but I want a great series. And like last night's game was not great after that third quarter, but we'll see what happens there. And finally, on Hanlaw's starting five, 3 Gators are on the ballot for the College Football Hall of Fame. One of them for the first time. You'll never guess who it is. His name is Timothy Tebow. He should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. To the College Football Hall of Fame, there are people in the College Football Hall of Fame that are there, much like the Ring of Honor, because of what they did in the NFL. Okay, but I think Tim Tebow is literally one of the 3 or 4 most important players in the history of college football. I believe that. And again, I know we're biased about that. The other 2 players, Brad Culpepper and Eric Rett. Brad Culpepper, a great player, and has done unbelievable things with his life, and he's been on this show. I'm rooting for him hard. Eric Rett, the same way. Eric Rett, it's kind of weird how Florida has so many players that are actually the leaders all time at their position, but they can't get in the Ring of Honor. Eric Rett's an example of that. Leading rusher all time. Emmitt Smith, deserving of the Ring of Honor, but, obviously, I think Eric Rett's deserving. I think Chris Leak's deserving, to be honest with you. I think Alex Brown's deserving. I'd put that thing would go all the way around the stadium if it was up to me, but it doesn't work that way. So we'll see what happens there. And again, this was very vague, the release that was sent out. Early 2023, early next year, is when they will announce who made it. And I'm just curious to see. I mean, Tebow's going to get in, right? You can't keep Tim Tebow out. He's going to get in. But the question is, does he get in first ballot? And I don't know if there's like a baseball kind of deal where you can't, first ballot, we're not going to vote for him, like they do with some, like Babe Ruth. Who's the greatest player of all time? Is it Babe Ruth? I don't know. If you can make an argument there have been better players. A lot of guys never get in on the first ballot, or they get in on the first ballot, but they don't never get all the votes. Some guys don't get on the first ballot even though they deserve to get in. We've seen that in the NFL too. We'll see if this happens in college football, but certainly he needs to get in. All right. So that is our Hanlaw starting 5, and of course we all know how great Chris Hand is with the Hanlaw, and actually, I think Chris is actually going to be on our show maybe in a week or so, maybe a couple weeks, whenever he's got the time, and that's what it comes down to. All right, so you've got so much going on, but we need the Hanlaw reader up there. Yeah, I'm making him show me on the thing, making him show the game on here. But as we know, this is the way we're going to be doing the show from now on, and I think it's great. I think it's a better format than we're doing it the way we're doing before. But the Hanlaw starting 5 is brought to you by Hanlaw, a Florida law firm which helps clients with government. You can learn more about Hanlaw by visiting its website at www.hand.law. The firm is available for consultation in Jacksonville. All right, we will take a break. We'll come back. And I know Ross Dellenger from Sports Illustrated had a little bit of a delay, and he may not be on when we come back. And if he's not, we can go to a couple other things. We got all of our sponsors and all of our great things. I hope you guys enjoy the podcast. I think the numbers tell us that you do, and we hope you're going to continue to support it. And this summer, we're going to have a lot of former players on. Well, Steve Spurrier being one of them, but some other former players on to kind of get us through June and July, and then, well, once you get to media days, it's all on, kind of. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back with Ross Dellenger from Sports Illustrated when we come back on another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios.
Alberta, I understand you were witnesses to a crash. Can you tell us about the accident? When you're in a crash, it's important to get witness statements immediately after the accident. Whether you're in a car, truck, motorcycle, scooter, or even a golf cart accident, at Meldon Law, we won't back down.
Another duly noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Bite Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from another duly noted podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam Brewer To Go. What would give you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place like this?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Rib Co. To Go. Come on down and enjoy it.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life, and the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
All right, welcome back to another duly noted podcast, of course, presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. We go to our Big Mills Zoom line. Of course, if you go to Big Mills and tell them you listen to another duly noted podcast, free French fries with your order. Remember that. So we go to our Big Mills Zoom line, and we talk to the great Ross Dellenger from Sports Illustrated, si.net.com. And Ross, how are you, buddy? I mean, I haven't talked to you in a while.
I know. Doing good, Pat. Just trying to make it through another off season, although there doesn't seem to be an off season anymore in college football. So it's been quite busy.
You guys probably went to Destin thinking we're going to have so many stories here. We're going to have this battle, this maybe Saban and Jimbo will actually wrestle in the lobby, and then they're going to announce how they're going to schedule. And you kind of came away with, the baseball staying in Hoover.
Yeah, it was somewhat anticlimactic, and I think it was because of all the fireworks that preceded it. I think those fireworks kind of triggered the commissioner, Greg Sankey, to kind of give a slap on the wrist to everybody and make sure they know that they should not go outside of the room and talk about such things and kind of skewer one another. And he said that, he admitted that. I think it was Wednesday's news conference or Tuesday's news conference with us. Sankey said something about how he told the coaches, don't go out in silos. So I think they, for the most part, they seemed to all listen. It was very, from a drama standpoint and really from a news standpoint too, there wasn't much there. I mean, we got some updates on the SEC scheduling stuff, but honestly, I wrote a story going into meetings about the SEC scheduling, and really coming out of meetings, nothing changed from this. I mean, I feel bad because I only basically wrote one story down there from my interview with Mark Keenum about the CFP, because nothing really changed from the big story, the two big stories, which were NIL and the Saban Jimbo stuff, and then in the scheduling, just nothing, not a whole lot got done. As one person told me down there, we like to, he was talking about the scheduling, but it kind of, he said, we like to talk and a lot and not make decisions, and so they'll keep talking.
Well, I mean, again, they don't have to make the schedule today. I mean, I understand that. We're still talking about 3 seasons away, right? But I know I read your story, and I was kind of surprised they'd already made that decision to either go with the 1-7 or the 3-6 model. And so, but as you know, Ross, when they decide on something, they announce it as unanimous. And it sounds like this thing is split right down the middle. And I'm wondering how they're going to, come to grips with some people just don't want this.
When they do announce it, yeah, it'll be unanimous, but just know it's not unanimous. There's no way they're going to get all 14 or 16, whatever. Oklahoma and Texas aren't voting members, so they won't have an official vote. But they've been made known where they stand on this situation and others. But yeah, it is. Pat, the SEC as well as anybody. It is as from a revenue generating in a historic success type of viewpoint. The league is split. There's a top and there's a very clear bottom, top 7, bottom 7. And they often disagree on a lot of pieces of legislation, because what is good for the big guys is usually not good for the little guys, and vice versa. And this is one of those legislation pieces, one of those decisions where they are in disagreement. Most of the top, I think, would tell you that they want 9 games, an extra game. Some of them view it as an extra win over the bottom half, maybe. Certainly making the conference more valuable. Is their main probably argument, and just control themselves a little more by just playing one another. And I think the bottom half of the league wants 8. They want to stay at 8, and they want that extra non-conference victory for one.
And they'll tell you is a big factor here. Yes.
yeah. Bowl, right. Bowl eligibility is one person. One person in the top half said to me, "Are we really arguing about who gets to go to the Music City Bowl? Is that really what we're doing here?" And yes, that's what the bottom half is arguing. But there's other arguments from the bottom half of the league. I think one of them is a 1-7 model obviously would destroy the annual secondary rivalries. Florida and
LSU,
let's see what. Yeah, there you go. That's one, I guess you could say. But Georgia, Auburn, Tennessee, Alabama, Texas A&M, right? I mean, those games wouldn't exist every year in a 1-7. So there's arguments on each side. They're very split. Pretty much, it seems like pretty much right down the middle, though. I will say, leaving Destin, I tweeted a little bit about this on Friday. It does seem to be that the 8-game supporters have rounded up a couple more. It feels like those that were 4-9 games, maybe a couple of them have come over because of 2 things: the uncertainty in the CFP right now and expansion. If you go an extra game, they want to make sure that they're not hurting themselves. If they have an extra loss, that they can get into an expanded CFP, and CFP expansion failed last year. So there's an uncertainty around the CFP. And the other thing is, and this is probably the bigger one we wrote about while we were in Destin on Thursday, is there's no additional revenue from the media rights deal with ESPN for the extra inventory. If you go to 9, there's nothing in the contract, according to administrators. There's nothing. So you have to have ESPN come to the negotiating table, and I don't know that they'll do that.
Well, and that's the thing. It's amazing because it's almost a year ago that they announced the new college football playoff format, and of course, now there isn't a new college football playoff format. So we're all sitting here going, we don't know. I mean, I don't know that I'm worried about the future of college football, but NIL, transfer portal, uncertainty about so many things, Greg Sankey saying it wasn't that the SEC becoming its own league is not a threat, it's an option. To me, it's both. But it just feels like we have no idea what college football is going to look like in 2025.
We don't, and that's what makes it difficult to make these more long-term decisions, and it's probably a reason why they're delaying also a little bit in this decision. As you mentioned, they don't have to make it now. Greg Sankey brought up that I think they made the schedules for Missouri and A&M like a year out, I believe, maybe even less than a year out, actually. I want to say November 11, Missouri joined the league officially, and they made the schedules like that spring or something. I want to say he said that. But so there's no rush. There's no rush in it. And like you said, these long-term decisions are hard to make. In the NCAA transformation committee is having these same issues. They're trying to make these long-term decisions and not know how the kind of structure of college sports, what it'll look like in 5 years or even 2 years. It just seems like it's changing so quickly. And so I think it's hard to make some of these long-term decisions, but at some point, something has to be done, and mostly because teams in the SEC have scheduled out non-conference games. Some of these schools have 2 Power 5 games down the road, and if they go to 9, that's 11 Power 5 opponents in the season, which a lot of programs really don't want to do. So they have to change a lot of these contracts. So they're going to need to know at some point. I think by the end of the calendar year, maybe by the end of the fall, we'll know.
Yeah, it's so weird. Florida schedules Texas, which they've never done before, and now we don't even know if they'll ever play Texas because we don't know how this is going to work out. I mean, I'm a big believer that I can't understand why the SEC allowed this format of their schedule to be like it has been, where Georgia hasn't been to Texas A&M, where Alabama comes to Florida every 10 years. I'm still amazed that there was a decision made at some point to schedule it that way. It feels like it's kind of been weird, just the whole format of it.
Yeah, and well, I think we'll look back, and we're looking back right now and just kind of scratching our head why did the SEC have divisions? And obviously that goes back to travel cost and geographic footprint and all that stuff. And a lot of that doesn't matter now because of the money in the way travel is now and how quick you can get places. So that's kind of understandable, but gosh, it's been 15 years, it's been split into divisions for 30 years. And so the last 10 to 15 years, there really wasn't much reason to have divisions. So you look back and kind of scratch your head about like why that has happened. And then you look at, and I should say there's 2 real reasons the SEC is looking at a new format. And I think one of the goals they want in a new format, one of them is to pit the top 2 teams in the league in the championship game instead of having, and we've seen it before, maybe somebody come out of the West as the top record in the league, and the East might have finished, as far as record, might have finished 3rd in the 4th in the whole division or the whole conference. So we've seen that happen, and you wonder why. Yeah, so that's a big goal. And then the other goal is play, as you mentioned, is play everybody more often. Alabama and Florida going 10 years without playing a regular season game, and then finally playing last year was just crazy, and it kind of shined a light on it. We need to make this happen more often. So both of the models do that. Every team will play every other team twice in a 4-year span, home and away. 3 in a 9-game schedule, be 3 permanents and 6 rotational, and then the 8-game has the 1-7.
Do you think this, and I've heard this from a lot of people, and again, they don't know any better than I do or you do or anybody, but I'm just curious of your opinion whether the NIL stuff is going to eventually kind of get figured out by everybody. It's gonna all kind of, the market will take care of it. And, like right now, everybody's freaking out, nobody knows whether to, that you need to embrace it, but if you don't embrace it and you're yelling and screaming about it, even if you do embrace it, you're yelling and screaming about it, that eventually it'll become a normal thing, like in a couple of years.
Well, yeah, and I think eventually you would think things would settle a little bit, the market wise, and or next year or the next year, because it's not going to happen this year. Congress will get involved with the federal legislation. I think the latter is a stretch. It's hard to get Congress moving without a real deadline or crisis. Mm-hmm. But as somebody down in Destin said, we're, at least according to them, we're headed toward a crisis. I think the big part of the big crisis would be the elimination of Olympic sports. It would be non-revenue sports going away, because you're having to basically pay football players and maybe basketball players too, maybe even as employees. That is certainly a topic of discussion. Yeah. It's something every Power 5 league is discussing. It's something the SEC presidents and athletic directors discussed at length last week. So that would get Congress moving, I think, if all of a sudden all these Olympic sports are getting cut.
All right, before we let you go, Ross, we appreciate your time. We have this game we play. It's called Yes, No Way, or Maybe. So I have 3 questions for you. It's brought to you again by Big Mills Cheesesteaks, street dining done right. Number 1, if you were in Vegas, should you take Alabama and Georgia or the field to win the SEC? Because I saw this the other day, and the odds are not good to take Alabama and Georgia, but I would still go there and bet it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I would take Alabama and Georgia, and I'll be in Vegas in about 3 weeks for NACDA, so maybe I'll just take up and go ahead and place a bet on that.
I'll send you some money. How about that? And you can put it down for me. Yeah. I really feel like this year there's Alabama and Georgia, and then there's about 9 teams that I have no idea what they're going to do. They might be really good. They might not be good. I don't know what Florida's going to be. They might be 5-7. They might be 7-5. They might be 9-3. I don't know what they're going to do. Same with LSU, with the team that they used to cover. I have no idea what LSU is going to do.
Well, these teams have because of the transfer portal, right? The one-time exception, the teams have changed so much from year to year. We're used to 25 new players every year, and what we're getting is 25 new players like normal, and then you might have 6 to 8 to 10 transfers. So you're talking about, at some teams, probably 40 new players. So it's complicated to kind of keep up with the portal. Yeah, I think we better get used to teams changing like this.
Yep, absolutely. All right, number 2, Bryce Young will be in New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony.
Yes, take that one as well.
Yeah, I don't know that we'll have the first or the second repeating Heisman winner, but there's a chance. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, anything involving Alabama, I'm going to say probably yes to, right? Until they stop doing it.
That's right. That's a good point. Finally, on Yes, No Way, or Maybe, brought to you by Big Mills Cheesesteaks. An SEC coach gets fired during the season this year.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Pretty much every year, I think I'd say yes to that. It seems to, and all the things that went down in Auburn this offseason tells me that we should all have our eyes in that direction midseason.
Yeah, I think that's the one that you kind of look at now, but who knows? I mean, who thought Dan Mullen going into last year was going to get fired?
Right. It's true. You never know in the league. I don't even know who would have the second, best odds. Yeah. But there's not very many, I guess, really outside of what's going on at Auburn.
Ross, it's always great talking to you, buddy, and we appreciate your time and appreciate you coming on the podcast. And we'll talk to you again soon. And enjoy Vegas, and then enjoy, of course, going to lovely Hoover, Alabama.
Hey, it's Atlanta this year.
Oh, that's right. Atlanta. It is Atlanta this year. Yeah.
Yep.
That's a
Yep.
little bit better than the town that sidewalks forgot, as I like to call it.
That's that's right. Well, thanks for having me on, Pat.
Thanks, Ross. Appreciate it, buddy. Ross Dellenger from Sports Illustrated. We appreciate his time. Just to give you an update, the Gators 1-1 now. Gave up a solo homer in the last inning. So we'll keep you updated when we can on baseball, and we'll come back. Of course, we've got a lot of things to cover. The Hesser and Kipke Power 5 and Bottom 3. Adam's Ribco to go Gator of the weekend. Leonardo's at Millhopper Quick Picks. And Three Things, which is now open for sponsorship if you want to get involved. You know how popular Three Things is. We'll talk about all that and more when we return on another Duly Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios.
Alberta, I understand you were witnesses to a crash. Can you tell us about the accident? When you're in a crash, it's important to get witness statements immediately after the accident. Whether you're in a car, truck, motorcycle, scooter, or even a golf cart accident, at Meldon Law, we won't back down.
Another Duly Noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Bite Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from another Duly Noted podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam's Ribco to go. What would give you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place like this?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Ribco to go. Come on down and enjoy it.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life, and the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
I tell you what, it's hard to I'm kind of watching this game. Florida just took the lead again, by the way, 2-1. Almost took it lead 3-1. Almost hit a home run. Great. I mean, both teams are playing so hard. I have so much admiration for all these college players. That's what they are. They're not, student athletes has become an outdated term anymore. They do have to take classes, but It just how hard they go, and I mean it's 100 degrees out there right now, and playing this hard. Anyway, all right. So let us go to our Hesser and Kipke's Power 5 and Bottom 3. Of course, we would do this, and we'll do it all through baseball season, and of course, Hesser and Kipke, as you know, is a law firm based in Hale Plantation. They specialize in employment, workers' comp, and family law. Visit their website at www.hklawfl.com or call Ken and Jennifer at 352-339-9920. look, not a lot has changed except for one team, and you're going to get mad at me for putting them in here, but I'm putting them in here anyway. Number one is still the Yankees, and it's more so the Yankees than ever. Yankees are on fire. I'm not a Yankees fan, but you got to give them credit. 39-15 right now. They've won 6 in a row. They won extra innings, I think, yesterday. It's just they're on a roll, and when you're on a roll, man, you want to stay on as long as you can. Number 2, the Mets. Both those teams are 8-2 in their last 10 games. That tells you a lot about how they're playing. Number 3 would be the LA Dodgers at 35-19. Again, 3 of my least favorite teams, if not the 3 least favorite, and the 4th would be the Astros. And that's it. I've got all 4 of my least favorite teams lined up there. The Astros at 35-19. And number 5, I'm putting the Braves in. I've been waiting all year to be able to put them in. I'm not saying they're anything great. They're one game over 500, but they're at least finally over 500, and they've won 5 in a row. They played some bad teams, but they're over 500. Yay, Braves! I don't know. I haven't really seen many of their games this year. Not many have been on TV. You would think the defending World Series champions would be on TV more than they are, but they aren't on a whole lot. But they're playing better. Obviously, they've won 5 in a row. And this is what they did last year. They had all these injuries, and I kind of gave up on them, and I did give up on them. I've already said that. And then they got hot, and they got rolling, and things started going well. All right, the Hesser and Kipke bottom 3 haven't changed a whole lot either. The Reds are still number 1 in the bottom 3. They are 18-35 and have lost 3 in a row. Now, they started the season, what were they, like 4-18 or something ridiculous? And then they got kind of going a little bit, and now they're back on another losing streak. So they're number 1. Then I would put the Royals at number 2. Weren't the Royals just in the World Series a few years ago? Or am I imagining that? Maybe it did happen. 17-35. And the Nationals, who won the World Series just, 3 years ago, was it? Are now 21-35, and those are the bottom 3. So Yankees, Mets, Dodgers, Astros, Braves, and then the bottom 3, the Reds, Royals, and Nationals. That's our Hesser and Kipke Power 5 and bottom 3. And I was actually texting back and forth with Ken Hesser the other day. He was at both the games. I imagine he may be at the game today, although he may have to work, like a lot of people do. I know the crowd there for this game is not huge. Just watching it on TV when I was watching it earlier. And you can understand it's a 1 o'clock game. It's 93 degrees. I mean, literally it's 93 degrees. It feels like 98 or whatever. And people have to work. They have jobs. Like me, I would be at the game, you know. So that is our Hesser and Kipke Power 5 and bottom 3. It's time for our Adams Ribco to go Gator of the weekend. And I made it 2 guys, and I talked about them in the first segment. Of course, the hand-loss starting 5. But our Adams Rib to go Gator of the weekend is Gators of the weekend. Carson Finvold, who, of course, what he did is going to be legendary forever. Regardless of what happens today, it's always going to be a legendary performance. 9 innings, 2 runs, a complete game after he came in with the bases loaded because Manning couldn't get anybody out. He went hit, batter, walk, and they got him out. This guy comes in. The story's so good, I wish I was still writing for the newspaper. That's how good it was. That's about the only reason I am. And Billy Horschel. And again, the guy with a Gator on his bag. It's an old school Gator, by the way. I don't know if you've seen it. You know, the old chicken foot Gator. That they got rid of, which is what Jeremy Foley and people up there used to call it, the chicken foot Gator. And of course, that logo is still popular, but there's a main logo that everybody uses. But he has it on his bag, and I know just the level of happiness he's feeling right now. I know he's already back home. He's over there in Ponte Vedra, and I don't know if he's playing this week. But every tournament that's ever played, the first thing I look for is, what's Horschel doing? It's time. I went on Saturday. Horschel's in the lead. All right, I got something to watch Sunday, and I did. I watched every every putt. That putt he made on 15 was incredible. Incredible. Well, it really won the tournament for him. So our Gators of the week, our Adams Ribco to go, Gators of the weekend, yes, our Carson, I keep forgetting what day it is, Carson Finvold and Billy Horschel. I don't think anybody's mentioned those two people in the same sentence before. So we have now. So there you go. And appreciate Adam so much for everything he does. All right, time for our Leonardo's at Millhopper quick picks. And three qualified on the last one. A lot of you picked Florida to win softball, and that, of course, we all know that did not happen. But three people did qualify, picked Oklahoma State and Golden State, so they picked both the states. And so I've got them all written down. They're all at home. 5 qualifiers so far for our Leonardo's at Millhopper quick picks. We're going to make it easy for you here today. We'll just pick the game on Wednesday night, Golden State at Boston. It's so weird how the NBA, and I know I should be used to this, but how the NBA plays, like there's a game every day. There's multiple games every day. And then they get down to the final series and they go, take 2 days off. I don't know why you can't play every other day, but they don't, and they want to stretch it out as long as they can. It's amazing. I know that place is going to be rocking on Saturday night at Boston Gardens. Of course, the series tied at 1. You know what the cheapest ticket you can get according to StubHub right now? I guess it's StubHub, whatever. The cheapest ticket for that game, $955. I'm going to go with no on that. How about no? I'm not spending $1,000 to go to a basketball game. I wouldn't spend $1,000 to go to a football game. I wouldn't spend $1,000 on much. New piping for my house, I spent more than $1,000 on that. I bought a new car. That was expensive, but I wouldn't spend it on. These things are going to last. You can go to a basketball game or any kind of sporting event. You don't know who's going to win. You have no idea. I wouldn't spend $1,000. I'd spend $55 to go to that game. Anyway, that's my point. All right, Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks. And again, we appreciate Kyle Cohen over there at Leonardo's for being a great sponsor of all of our stuff that we do. And so Golden State at Boston. And I'll post that up there because we'll have plenty of time to make that pick. You guys can't argue, I didn't have time. I didn't hear it till Tuesday. All right, the game's Wednesday night at like 9 o'clock. It starts at 9 o'clock. Guy who won't be watching that game? Me. Too old. I need to go to bed before that. I may watch it for a while, but not that long. We're getting near the end, by the way, of sports that really matter to me anyway. Then all we're going to have for summer is basically baseball games. And but what we'll do on this podcast is we'll do some fun things. We'll do some different things, talk about other old games again. And Coach Spurrier will be with us again on Friday, as we said. All right, it is time for 3 Things. 3 Things is not sponsored right now because, as we talked about earlier, Chris Hand and Hand Law have moved over to the starting 5, which opens up the segment. And we love it. We think it's going to be exciting and great. But 3 Things available. If you want to be a sponsor, got a good deal for you. And it's a very popular segment on this show. And here we go with it. 3 Things. All right. First of all, Kevin Na resigned from the tour to join the LIV tour. The Saudi Arabian tour, which first event is this week, I think, in London. Does nothing for me. Kevin Na, though, made a ton of money on the tour. He's a really good player. Does he move the meter? Look, there's one guy that moves the stick, and that's Tiger. And then it was Phil, and now Phil has gone into exile. And then there's a group of guys in that third spot, like McIlroy, Justin Thomas, guys like that. And then there's another level, and Billy Horschel's in that fourth level of people that you want to watch. Kevin Na is not one of them. So to Kevin Na leaving, I say, am I going to watch it because Kevin Na's in it? How about nah? Here's the thing. I saw one of the tour players tweet it out. Good. He's going to the other tour. Now our rounds will be 10 minutes faster. He's a very slow player. Remember when he had that thing where he would stop and he couldn't pull the trigger and he'd have to step away from it? And look, I know that was a big issue. And look, we could sit here and argue about whether it's right to go play on a tour with terrorists, that is funded by terrorism. I'm not rooting for this tour to do well. I can't believe Greg Norman's gotten involved in it. I'm glad that Jack Nicklaus did not. In fact, I just saw a story that moved that Tiger Woods apparently was offered in the 9 figures, which I had to figure out would be over at least $100 million to join the tour, and decided nah. He said nah on that. All right, number 2, I wanted to talk a little bit about the regionals because I've watched a ton of baseball this week, as you know, as you have, as all of us have. If you're, well, not all of us, because not everybody's a college baseball fan. I like college baseball. I think it's really interesting, especially regional time. I think it's really fun. But it's weird because, well, first of all, I guess my ESPN Plus subscription expired, so I couldn't watch the game last night, and I didn't want to get the ESPN subscription just for one game. So I decided not to. I may still have to get it for football season. We'll see. But there were games, like, for example, Florida's first game against Oklahoma couldn't come on the air because they had to stay with the game they were on. The game was 21-1. And the other team that was losing decided we're going to get guys in one at a time to get that experience, which I get. That's fine. I appreciate that. We're going to pull our shortstop, bring in another guy, which takes 2 or 3 minutes. And then we're going to bring another pitcher in to pitch, even though they're down 21-1, just to give them that experience of playing in the College World Series. So the Florida game couldn't come on. I don't get ESPN's plan. I know that everybody's raving about the what is it called, squeeze play, where they go, but you can't. I don't know. I don't like the way they cover it. I just don't. Okay, and they need to have run rules in college baseball regionals, like they do in the College World Series for the women. There's run rules. You need to have run rules and I know the run rules were put in back when 1-0 games were the way of college softball. But it's still there, and of course 1-0 games rarely don't happen anymore. But I think in college baseball, if you're up 21-1, you're not coming back on that. Okay, I know LSU made these great comebacks. One was 11-4. Okay, it's 11-4. You're not run rule it at 12. How about that? You need to do that. All right. And finally, number 3, on 3 things. There are so many games going on right now as I speak. Not only the Florida game, but other games. I think there are 9 9 regional finals, game 7s, and that's the most they've ever had. A lot of SEC teams did make it in. Tennessee, obviously. Tennessee's game was really interesting. I watched that. Texas A&M. Do I count Texas as a SEC team? I guess I can't do that yet. And there's a bunch of them playing, including LSU Southern Miss at 4 today. Vandy's playing at 4. Auburn's getting ready to finish out their game. But the best news, even though Florida has not been, they're still playing right now. They actually have a 2-1 lead. If you're listening to me on the radio, you already know what happened. I mean, not on the radio, on the podcast, on what am I trying to say? Facebook and YouTube, you can know this. It's live, but the other things that aren't live, you already know who won. I'm making no sense now. But the great thing about what Florida's been able to do so far is they're still playing. At least they were playing right now, and FSU and Miami are done. Out of here, get out, see ya. That makes me very happy. Although I will say this, it's kind of hard to watch once the Gators get knocked out in any sport, including softball. I did watch a little bit of softball today, so maybe I need to get out more. You get back on the golf course a little more. I did a lot of pool this week too. All right, that's going to do it. And again, 3 things available if you want to get it to be a sponsor. It's great. We appreciate Hand Law for being continuing their sponsorship, just shifting over to another thing. And, of course, Hesser and Kipke, Adams Ribco to go, Leonardo's a Mill Hopper, Big Mills cheesesteaks, and of course, as always, Titan MRI, which brings you another duly noted podcast from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. That's going to do it. Thanks so much to Evan, who got the game up for me. He's an amazing producer. I'm telling you, he is top 5 in producing. Yeah. There's only one, but he's top 5. All right, that's going to do it. We'll be back Friday. Coach Spurrier will be in, and we'll talk to him about a lot of things. I'm looking forward to that. We've kind of been on and off with him on as far as what day, but Friday when he's going to be on. Until then, I am Pat Dooley. I'm deep. I'm way back, and I am out of here.